Welcome to episode 7 of the Backpage podcast. My name is Mark McGoldrick, and in this special podcast series, which is being brought to you in association with the Balmore Court and Motel in Enniskillen, we'll be celebrating the careers of some of Fermanagh's leading sports stars. For this episode, I sat down with well-known local footballer Derry Beckett, who started out with Enniskillen Town before going on to achieve so much at the highest level of football in Ireland. Beckett was a key player for Derry City during the club's last League of Ireland title win in 1997. He was so loved by Derry fans that they named a supporters club after him. This is the story of a Fermanagh football legend. Derry Beckett, welcome to the Backpage podcast.
Thank you very much, Mark.
How's things? Are you keeping well?
Yeah, not too bad. Enjoying the good weather. When you're a postman this time of year, everybody wants your job, but you don't seem to see them October, November, December, January, February, and even March. So yeah, enjoying the weather, enjoying the work.
Good man. A wee bit of a tan too, so you're...
That's a Costadale Hillview tan, that there. There's no better place to be when the sun's out. And like I said, when January, February, March, there's no worse place to be. So you get both ends of it, don't you?
You do, that's for sure. We've known each other quite well, and I've spoken to you before about your career. But for people just listening, maybe for the first time, where did your love of football come from?
Playing fields in Kilmacormac. Down in an all-weather pitch that you played with your friends every day, and you don't see that now every day, do you? They're all stuck in their wee PlayStations and stuff like that. And then in them days, you could have played football on the street because you hardly see the car. That's not the case anymore because there's a car everywhere. But basically from there, from a young age, I was like, I had a ball when I was about my dad says 3 or 4, and I just had a love for the game, and I was right handy at it. And you know yourself, when you're good at something, you're always going to enjoy it. But most of my young age was playing football in Kilmacormac with a lot of good young footballers and a lot of players that would have played for the Corinthians them days, you know. So I was in good stead. That's
a really good memory, and thanks for sharing that with us, Gary. And so obviously, as you mentioned, getting into it, but Enniskillen Town would have played a big part in your development as a young footballer.
Well, Enniskillen Town youth was only born maybe on under 12 level, maybe for around that time, or under 14, because that's all the sort of players that we had, and it was made up of Kilmacormac and Hillview as well. The famous wee Paul Keaveney, you know, would have took it. I remember going with my dad to a few Irish youth games where they had players, an under 18 team, but never below that, I don't think. Don't quote me on that. And I remember that it was round 4. We used to play Ballymurray an awful lot because we were only 2 teams. And then obviously it started to grow and grow and grow into what it is today.
And just when you mentioned him, I suppose a lot of our listeners will have known him, Paul Keaveney, and I suppose he done so much for football here in Enniskillen. Yeah,
well, Paul was, I remember like Paul was my next door neighbour for a long, long time, so I would have known him a lot, you know, and wee Paul probably way ahead of his time through his training, his fitness. He always concentrating on being fit for the game, but sometimes unfortunately the players at the club didn't turn up to do that. But yeah, the wee man was special, and wee Scotland was always about with them too in the latter stage for the C team and stuff. They concentrated so much on youth to give youth a chance at that time, you know, and they concentrated on that, and it was the C team was magnificent for our growth as footballers.
And breaking into the senior Enniskillen Town team, how did you find that? I suppose that was your kind of real exposure of adult football. I
never really. You always dream of playing. My dream had always been playing an FA Cup final. I never planned anything. Whatever came happened. C team went well. Scored a lot of goals for them. Straight up to the B team then halfway through the season, and then again I think I made my first team debut halfway through the season, and then played 2 more for them. I didn't know what was going to happen when I went to these teams. All I knew was when you're playing for Enniskillen Town to the youth, you try to get, when you're old enough, to get the C team. and then you try to get the B team, and then your ambition was to get the first team and try and win things, and mine was no different.
And did you really enjoy that, moving up and playing for the first team?
Of course, yeah. I was we didn't really win much. We were the bridesmaids a lot of times, but I was scoring a lot of goals at that stage. You know what I mean? I was skinny, I was quick, had a strong shot me. I was annoying to a lot of players, and they'll definitely tell you that was true. But it was just a hunger to win, and that's what I showed on the pitch for most of how I played anyway.
And how long did you play for the first team until the move came to Omagh Town?
It was two and a half seasons. Yeah, I was a half season the first time, and then I played a full season. Actually, I went to Omagh after the first full season, and I remember travelling up to work. Roy McCready was in charge at the time, and I remember travelling to a game, and I already explained that I was going to be late, and then some other boy arrived that he didn't know was coming. And he put me on the stand to say, I want to look at this boy. And I thought that was wild ignorant and wild uncalled for, so I didn't actually go back. My father wasn't too happy, but you know, I was 17, 18 at that time. So I'm back to Enniskillen Town again, not knowing what was going to happen, but I went back there, scored another load of goals, and then Roy McGree was gone. And a fella called Paul Key was in my living room one time. I came back from out playing or something, and then he asked me up to Omagh around, I think it was 92, 93 maybe, and I stayed that year, and that was the first full season in the Irish League.
Was that a big step up at that time?
Well, running, as I said, like I could run, I was quick, I could do long distance, and here at home I would have been in the club top 1, 2, no less than 3. When I went up 32 mile up the road to Omagh, I was third last by a distance. I couldn't believe the gap and the fitness of these boys. But what I also forgot was the fact that Omagh Town wasn't just born there, it was already a established Irish League club, and I had to catch up quite quickly, and thankfully I did.
Were they very good to you? I suppose you were still young enough at that time.
Yeah, they were fine. I think we were on £20 a week, so we were at that stage. So we weren't there for the money. No, I think it's something that I had to try, and I was glad I did. It was a difficult league, surely, because we weren't one of the top teams, and we got a few hidings and a few this and a few that. But it was a year or two. That year was with Omagh. We won a thing called a Soccer Six. It used to be played in Dundon Icing, and it used to be shown on TV. And I got picked for the team to play that, and we went and won that. And that was enjoyable. You know, a team like Omagh Town, even for a Soccer Six, shouldn't win that thing. You know what I mean? But just wee things like that were a wee boost and stuff like that. So even though it was very difficult, I did enjoy my time at Omagh. Definitely did. And people say you used it as a stepping stone. As I said already, I hadn't planned anything. Whatever came, whatever choice I was given next, is the only time when I thought about it.
And £20 a week, it certainly wasn't for the money that you were moving.
No, definitely not. I just thought that with scoring that many goals in, I think it was about over 100 in 2.5 seasons, at a young age, I thought I had to try and give this a word. But I soon found out that quickness was a massive thing, and even though I was quick down here, as I already said, I wasn't that quick in the Irish League. And I also knew I could play a bit. I also knew I had a wee head on my shoulders, so I had to start using that a wee bit more. And it worked out quite well for me because the goal tally wasn't great.
They're astonishing figures whenever you mention scoring over 100 goals.
Yeah.
Did scoring goals and finishing come naturally to you?
At this level from Alan Western, yes. As I say, it got harder. The chances became more and more less. So I knew then that I'm going to have to not just roll over the top and bang one in. I'm going to have to start showing for the ball, be strong in it, bring people into play. And later on in my career, I felt that I actually made other players play, which was a strength of mine, you know what I mean? I was knitting things together and instead of the goals, because basically, to be honest, I wasn't as quick as I was down here, and as I say, I had to change a bit.
And then Coleraine came the move. That was again another step up.
Yeah, they were a much bigger club with much bigger support. In that time, the Irish League was split up into 2 seasons, and the first season had to be over, and your aggregate score over the 2 seasons depended whether you stayed in the top league. Now, when Felix took over, who bought me to Coleraine, they didn't do well. The first year was here, they improved a bit, but the second year when I went with them, we finished 3rd and got relegated.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, we finished 3rd and got relegated. Bangor were drawn 0-0, and we were drawn 0-0. Now, if Bangor had went up the field and scored, they would have went above Coleraine, and they would have went down, and Coleraine would have stayed up. So Bangor left us in 3rd, and we got relegated.
Very fine margins.
Very Irish.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's so strange, and that's the way it was over the 2 seasons, because Coleraine had such a bad season the year before. Just a second would have been enough. We just couldn't get there. We needed to beat Ballymena, who would have been Colerane's greatest rivals. So they had great pleasure on sending us down for finishing 3rd.
Was it a coincidence that Coleraine improved whenever you joined?
Absolutely not. It was Felix Healy. He a very, very good manager, a very, very good player, and basically knew what he was doing when he was on the sideline as a manager.
And what did he really help you develop as a player at the time?
But you see, at that stage, it's only still second, two, 3 times a week. Probably, maybe not even for me, because the fact Coleraine was so far away. He trusted me to train at home. So I went back training in Enniskillen Town. Okay. And then you want to be doing your own wee bit, because, as I say, the difference in speed and fitness was unreal. And I was quite good at cross country and stuff, so it kind of helped me, you know what I mean? That's not that I didn't need much, but when I did do it, it benefited to me, you know what I mean? But yeah, you're starting to play with better players and stuff, you're starting to learn a wee bit more, but you're still young, you know what I mean? You're still learning your trade, you're still learning how to get on with things, and I'm still travelling around Northern Ireland like by myself, basically, a young lad from Fermanagh. But you know, you have to go and try and enjoy the challenges and see what they're like, instead of sitting there going 5, 10, 20, 25, 30 years time going, I wonder if I had done that. You know, so I was glad I took them on, and I was glad that I got to move to Coleraine.
I've no doubt that there are going to be a lot of people involved with Derry City listening to this podcast, hopefully. And so when did that move then? So you moved from Coleraine to Derry?
Well, Felix, did he get a full season? I'm not too sure. No, Felix didn't even finish the full season at Coleraine after he signed me. And he left to take over. He told me that obviously Derry City job could come up, and he didn't really want. I don't know if he had to go. He was one of Derry City's most famous sons, most famous players, and the job come up, and nothing was going to stop him to take it. So that was totally understandable. And then came in Kenny Shields, and he had his own ideas and his own team. He came from Carrick. He brought his players across, and that seen me slide towards the sideline, and sometimes again for the reserves. So I had to work even harder. I did get back in the team. He would have been in charge of the team near the end, and I did get back in the team. But then as things went on, his ideas was the people he knew, which happens in football. And then one night, where the Northwest Cup was just not just born, but it got a wee bit bigger. Coleraine had drawn Derry City, which is what they wanted. I was at Coleraine and we won. I played really well the week before, even a couple of weeks, and I was flying, and we went to Brandywell. I was looking so much forward. I didn't get to set one foot in the pitch. And Coleraine won 2-0 that night, so I couldn't really complain. I was disappointed that I didn't get to play the Brandywell. I thought, God, I'm never going to get another chance to play here. Yes. Little did I know on the second leg, when Derry came up to play Coleraine, it was 0-0 and the lights went out. Lights went out. And Felix Healy walked over to me in Coleraine, Douglas, he says, you're signing for me after the match. And I just said, okay. So I signed for Derry City and Colerane's chairman's thingy. I think they paid £17,000 at that stage. And
it was just a no-brainer for you?
A no-brainer for me. He knew how I played, he wanted you. It was the second time he came for me. He explained to me that the league was going to be much harder. It was. But as I said before, I liked the challenge, and the name of Derry City was massive. You know, it was a massive thing to go and sign for and go and play for. And there was a fella called Tom Mohan that was already there. And he was a Fermanagh lad, and I knew Tom quite well. so was travelling him, so it made it quite easy. But before we move on, there was a man called John McDowell who was a Korean fan, and he used to bring me up to they found him that he was going to matches, and he used to bring me up to the matches and training the odd time without a hesitance. They obviously paid him expenses, but he used to bring me up without any asked question or anything. So I was very grateful for him. Unfortunately, he has passed away in the meantime, along with his dear wife. I can't remember her name now. I'm going to say McFedrick. I'm not too sure. It might come to me in the end. But him and her used to bring me up to the games, and I was very, very grateful for what they did for them.
Yes. Oh, you weren't driving?
No, I wasn't driving at the time. Actually, Felix used to come down and get me on a Friday night. I used to stay in his house on a Friday night in Derry and then go to the match in Korea, and then he used to drive me home. So he was glad to see John McDowell too. I had to listen to Felix sing songs on the way home because he was playing that night in Derry. So, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Fermanagh all around in the match, they'll leave you back to come back home. Right where he's practicing singing the songs is pretty unique.
Pretty unique, yes.
Yeah.
So many memories, it's unbelievable.
This episode is proudly supported by Belmore Court and Motel, Northern Ireland's original motel offering a true home from home in the Fermanagh Lakelands. From the trails and lakes to cheering on our incredible local sporting talent, we believe looking after what matters. Our guests, our community and our environment is always worth celebrating. Find your perfect stay at motel.co.uk.
Derry City, a huge club. Had you followed them or been watching them like kind of going up, or?
Well, if any young man tells you that they were watching Irish League League, you're probably telling you porkies. You knew of them, but the Premiership is the main thing of football. English football, the FA Cup. There was no Champions League at the time. I don't think it was European Cup. That's where you aspire to be, you know. And you would think I would have known of Derry City, absolutely. Massive football club. I would have known of your Linfields, your Glentorrans, your Portadowns. I knew all the players that was playing around that. I did follow football quite a lot. In fact, when there was no Sky Sports TV, I used to watch the 4 leagues, and then I could pick up the results quite quickly. And then the town, when we followed to the town reserves, the first team boys and the town boys used to come and ask me, "I did Stockport the other day. Oh, sorry, that would be 1." And I could tell them what the score was. So I was an avid follower of football, and I knew about the leagues. Now, I wasn't mad on them, but I knew they existed, and I knew how good the players were.
When you got involved with Derry, your first few weeks leading up to your debut or starting to play, what was that like?
My debut was in Dundalk, and straight away encouragement straight away. Felix would never been. He talked about life more than he talked about football. So if people in Derry listen up, they will understand. He told stories about life rather than tactics. Like, we were getting a different story every week. It was like fascinating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one thing he used to say before I went on the pitch, he used to go and play.
Simple.
That was it. He says, go and play. Go and enjoy it. Go and play. And you felt about 6'6" going out the pitch when somebody like that says something to you. Somebody of that ability and that character and that of the things that he achieved goes and tells you to play. You just go and play. And
I suppose not disrespecting any managers, but it can be very complicated now, and there's so many tactics and everything. But that bit of advice, just go and play, that must have been good for you at that age.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And as you say, like, it's not. It really, like, Stephen Kenny was quite similar. You know what I mean? He was a bit more tactical, but like, I asked him a question, "Do you want me to do that?" "I'm not going to tell you how to play." You know what I mean? They knew when to say things. They knew how to manage. You know, it wasn't, as you say, about this and about that. Like, I think the daughter who plays for Fermanagh ladies now came home with a book of stuff, like an American football book, and I'm just going, no, I don't want to read that. You know what I mean? It's, as you say, it's changed. Like, there's so many things that they're looking at, this and that. I think it's far too much. And the sooner football goes back to 4-4-2, like Mike Bassett said, the better.
Yeah, that's for sure. The Brandywell, very special place. What was the first time that you went out there? What was it like?
Well, I actually went to watch a couple of matches, and I went with the club to watch Derry City play Man United, and it would have been probably the first experience ever been at a top football ground in Ireland, and it was awful. The surroundings was terrible. It was like nothing we thought we'd see. But then again, Manchester and Everton, they were all run down at them stages. The sky hadn't arrived yet. So Derry wasn't really, it was like we were soaked. There was no covering hardly. It was a massive, massive crowd there. And it was like, I knew what it meant, but I was only 9, 10, so it was just a matter of going to see. It was actually going to see probably, I think we were playing Man United that day, more than Derry. But before that again, Felix had invited, Derry were involved in a triple thriller of replays with, I think it was Bohemians in the FA Cup semi-final. So for people who don't know, the League of Ireland FA Cup semi-final, it's a home draw or away draw. It's not due draw. So it's a flip of a coin. So Derry were playing their second replay with a drew, and the place was packed. And the atmosphere that night was fantastic. And it would have been the second time after, remember, the Corey implement that I would have been at the ground. And I just looked at the place. I never thought, I thought I'd like to play here. Did I think I was ever going to? I wasn't sure. I was doubting it. But it really was a good experience that night compared to the one I had when I was 9 and 10 and soaked and watching Man United. So the second experience was far better. I was 19 then. I knew what it was about. I knew what the place was about, and you could tell the passion of the fans, of what was at stake and the nervousness and stuff. It finished 0-0 that night, but I think Derry beat them 1-0 in the third replay to get to the final.
Before we go on to talk about 1997, which was that season, when you joined in 95, what was them first few seasons like? Did it take you a wee bit of time to adjust, or were you just...
No, not really. Football's football. Centre halves are centre halves. They beat you no matter where you are. You have to get on the ball and be brave. You have to try and bring people to play. You have to try and score goals. So none of that really changed. I was always nervous anyway. I think there's something wrong if you're not. You know what I mean? So I was even nervous coming back to play for Enniskillen Town. I was nervous playing for Enniskillen Town. So the whole way through my career, after I got my first touch, I was fine. But until that, you're kind of like, right, I have to get this thing started and stuff like that. So they were kind of at a rebuilding period in 95. It was like 95, 96. So I was coming into the last bit of the season, Christmas. At that stage, League of Ireland would have been still winter football. And beforehand, the 94-95 season, where Felix came through, they won the FA Cup and they lost the league in the last day of the season to Athlone. They got beat by Athlone. There's a famous story in Derry where Derry were big favourites to win the league that time. There was 4 teams going for it. It was that close. And I think the team in 3rd or 4th won it. Dundalk. And one of the players that they done all this preparation for the game, get this ready, kept saying a lot of things, and we can't be relaxed. And one of the players, I'm not too sure who it was, said, "Oh, come on, it's only Athlone." And Athlone beat them 2-1. And the talk in the changing room ever since then, when that group of players were together, if we were in for a big game, remember, it's only Athlone. Yeah, so that became a big story after they lost that league on that last day of the season. Yeah, it wasn't ideal, but in credit to them, Stuart Gall missed a penalty that day to win the league, and then a week later he scored a penalty in the FA Cup final to take it home. So a wee bit of repetition, but I'm sure he probably would have, best teams win leagues, so he probably would have won the first one. But fairness to him for stepping up and winning the cup for Derry.
In the 1987 season, a standout one for Derry City. What do you remember about it?
Again, it was 2021. Still young. We brought Liam Coyle back. Best player I've ever played with, bar none. Brought him back, and you knew we got 3 or 4 boys in from Dublin, and I wouldn't have known, but you could just see in the older players the glint in their eye that something was happening here. So you could see it. You could see that, and we started off the season quite well, and we ended up winning the league that time by 10 points. We got beaten in the FA Cup final, and we got beaten in the League Cup semi-final with a very, very small squad. We only had a squad of 18,
Okay.
Yeah, we only scored 18, 17, 18. I don't know whether the manager liked that or not, or it was a purpose, but for us to do that and win it by a big margin, it was a massive achievement, because like we've travelled down to Dublin every second week, or Galway, or even Limerick was about that stage. I don't know if they were in the division, but we had to travel all over Ireland, and for us to go ahead and win that thing and win the league by 10 points and then get to a cup final, which we were disappointed in, to be fair. We had a bit of a tragedy before. Our goalkeeper's brother died on the Tuesday or Wednesday before the cup final. Now, it didn't affect me because I was too young, but it was just, boys, I was just hanging about, the club, and there was nothing we could do, and Tony couldn't play himself, which is very harsh on him, and I could understand why he couldn't play. And that season there was the season that I was the league's Young Player of the Year. I made two Player of the Months that year as well, so it was a good season for me. So it was an enjoyable one, and as I said at the start, best teams win leagues.
What was the celebrations like?
The celebrations are what you would think. Fantastic. The people are very, very passionate, as you were chatting to your editor about the football, and just all of a sudden you were an icon. You know what I mean? And it was just fantastic. Great memories, especially on the pitch. It was so enjoyable, and such a good team too. Very underestimated, and they shouldn't have been, because it hasn't been done in 30 years since.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, but I have to take responsibility for that too, because I was about for another 11 after that.
And you're so well known here in
as a postman now.
As the postman.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you were getting a lot of support from home whenever you, especially in that 1970s.
Oh, wife and kids. Wife. We haven't got a good wife behind you even on. You know what I mean? Like, we have 4 kids. So they were being born as my football career with Derry was going on. And I was in the post as well. So you can imagine the amount of times I would have been at home. Actually, the 4 kids are actually all born into me wearing a Derry City tracksuit.
That's
so
unbelievable.
yeah, and it was after the first one, it was never going to change, because at the end of the day, I played more for Derry City than I did for Enniskillen Town, so at senior level. So a lot of people have spent 13 years and only would have played about maybe 9 at senior level for Town, because I was away so long, So it was a fantastic time for them 13 years, and I think I remember Gary Neville would have said if he could put the time back together, he'd have them 10 days where they won the treble. I'd go and do that 13 years again tomorrow. I would do it all again tomorrow. Definitely would.
That's very nice. You've alluded to it there. After 1997, that success, the following seasons...
Well, it's all about... when Felix left, we weren't good the year after. We were terrible, actually, for one reason or another, because when you win the League of Ireland, you've got to go there and then. When you win it once, you've got to go again and again and again, and we didn't do that. Whether it was down to us because we didn't perform. More or less, we made a few changes, so we didn't perform the year after. Maybe we were still celebrating, a lot of us, or what the story was, but we definitely didn't perform, and we have to take responsibility for that. And then it starts to peter out, and like League of Ireland, it's all about money too. So it's all about budgets. What the budget Derry has now compared to what it had then is totally different. And as I said, like if you ask like Peter Canavan when he said about Tyrone, until they won All Ireland, which is what, maybe 3 or 4 times after.
Yeah, 4, yeah.
Yeah, when they used to go down south, they were like the British Army. They were no good, So we had to do that the whole time. And Derry have only ever won the League of Ireland twice and the Irish League twice. Which for a big club is not enough, and they know that. We just at times we didn't have money to build teams, and then finally in 2005, a certain Stephen Kenny came along, and all of a sudden money came out of everywhere, and he started to build a squad that was capable of challenging again. Now in between we'd won FA League Cups and FA Cups, so we were still picking up trophies, but we just never gathered a league challenge until 2005.
Do you regret just that maybe
If Stephen Kenny doesn't go to Dunfermline, I have at least another 2 league titles in my back pocket and a few more things. So instead of leaving with 7, I should be leaving with double figures. If he stays, instead of going to dopey Dunfermline, I think that dynasty that Dundalk did for 3 or 4 seasons ago, that Shamrock Rovers are doing now for 5 seasons ago, that Shamrock Rovers did when the great Jim McLaughlin, a Derry manager, done the treble at Derry in '89. I believe that Stephen Kenny could have possibly done that with Derry City, but Dunfermline came coming. He had ambition, which you can't fault him for, and away he went. And next minute, it never really worked out after that. He struggled with managers here, managers there, because they couldn't get the height that we were getting with Stephen.
What was he like to work with?
Some similar to Felix. Just used to tell you just go and play. A wee bit more tactical, doing his homework on other teams. And like him, he made you feel like Felix. He made you feel 7 foot tall being on the pitch, which is always a big help. Give you confidence. Just tell you to go and enjoy yourself and go and play. Something similar.
You've already answered this about the best player you've played with, Liam Coyle. What was he like? And
well, I played with Paddy McGoldrick as well, and people would say, "Jesus, Paddy was unbelievable. He really was. He was like, I don't know what he was like when he was on the. He was quicker with the ball than he was without it anyway. He didn't like tracking back, but a talent that you seen the goals he got for Celtic. Now Paddy was never injured, and I met Paddy. If Liam Coyle doesn't get injured with his knee, Liam Coyle got one of the worst knee injuries in football that he had to retire at. I'm not too sure what his age was, maybe 24. He's told he'd never play again. I think two big Brazilian defenders in Benfica done him because he was causing them so much trouble. If I've got that story right, I'm not too sure. But if Liam Coyle doesn't get a knee injury, I don't meet him. That's why he's the best player I ever played with. I met Paddy because he was never injured. He was just coming back to rebuild his career, which he did very successfully. But if Liam Coyle doesn't get injured with a knee injury, me and him never meet.
If I can bring you now 20 years ago, 2006, and the European experience, that must hold special memories for you too.
Before that, they always talk about FK Lynn was a result for Derry, a famous result in Derry. I think it's FK Lynn where they actually won in Europe because League of Ireland Irish League teams didn't win that much. It's not like now where they're playing San Marino, Andorra, Faroe Islands. They're all in that one pot, which gives them teams of smaller clubs or the lesser known clubs in Champions Leagues and Conference Leagues and Europa Leagues a chance to make money and get a wee bit further. Like in 2006, our first row was Gothenburg, who'd won Swedish. Like they said they weren't the team in the world, but they still qualified for Europe in the Swedish division and had won that competition when it was UEFA Cup twice. So to get them the first round was a big task, you know. And I already had experience before when I went with Derry to Cyprus. We played at Paul in Nicosia, and I scored that time in Nicosia. And when I scored, I goes, "Oh, I've got a European goal! You know, it was nice." But I didn't realise until one of the Stato boys came up and said, "That's the first Derry City goal away from home in 40 years in European football."
Another record.
Another wee thing, like, you know what I mean. But it just shows you how rare things like that were, and for us to go and do what we did in 2006 with Gothenburg, 1-0 out there, 1-0 at home. Gretna, who were like Derry now, funded by a billionaire who was from around that area and they were making great strides. They qualified for Europe because Hearts beat them in the Scottish Cup final in penalties. I think Celtic won the league, so that's how they got to Europe. And we went there and we beat them 5-1 in Scotland in Motherwell's pitch. We drew 2-2 at home, and then the draw was made, and we got PSG, which sparked, like, the credit union was wrecked in Derry. It was already wrecked anyway because we'd won the first one in Gothenburg, so momentum gathers, and then you win 5-1 Scotland and it gathers again. So we got PSG. But I remember the manager being he was raging because there was teams in there that he thought we could beat.
Yes.
And he wanted to be the first manager to get the first team into the league setup of European football. And he knew there was teams in there after us putting Gothport and Gretna out, that there was teams that weren't as good as PSG that we could get, that we could beat. Obviously he had to go and concentrate, but I know for Fermanagh that he was raising that we got PSG because the chances of us beating them wasn't great. But leading into the game, he didn't let us believe that. He felt that we could get something, and we did in the first game. But out there, they were just too good.
And you captained?
I captained out there, yeah. And I was injured for the first game, and I came on in the second half for the 0-0 game for the last 25-30 minutes. And then I recovered, and he told me the night before that I think Peter Hutton was only come back into their club captain. And usually when he was out, it was either myself or Eddie McCallion would stand in, and he came to me and said, "You're captain tomorrow." So a boy from Kilmaccormack leading out famous Derry City in the Parc des Princes is something that can be done because it already has.
It's unbelievable. And it was just very unfortunate that just the result didn't go your way.
Yeah, hindsight, they deserve to go through. Killian hit the bar in the first leg, which would have put us 1-0 up. Might have been a different story, but as you said, it was an enjoyable experience in Europe. That whole season, 2006, we lost the league on goal difference. We lost the treble on goal difference. We'd won the FA Cup, we'd won the FA League Cup, and we lost the league and goal difference. So we would have been the second team ever to the treble, with Derry also being the first team and the only team ever to do it in 1989.
When did the time come then for you to say, have to bring this chapter of Derry to a close?
But it's never your decision. You always feel as if you can give it one more go. So even though I was there 13 years and they did let me go, it was disappointing because you always think you can give one more season. Like, you know, in 2006 we skipped over 2005 where we lost the league in the last day of the season in Cork. We're 2 points clear. Cork are chasing us. Now, and then days you played either 2 at home and 1 away, or 1 at home and 2 away. There was 3 times, not 4. And again, a wee bit of luck. We had to play Cork away twice that season. If we played Cork at home twice, because we beat them 4-1 at the Brandywell, we could beat 2-0 and 2-0. Then we find margins. That's all it is. That either stops you from winning the league or win it. But going back to the game itself, 2005, again very nervous. They beat us 2-0. And Mark, I may as well have been sitting here chatting to you rather than playing that game because I was absolutely useless. And that sits in the bottom of my gut every so often.
Does it? Yeah.
I was useless. I was flying that season. We was everything. I was just playing well. Top me game. And that game came. I was shocking.
What happened?
Just they just it's a term, bullied me. Maybe they just stopped me from playing, and they let it happen. For what reason? I don't know. But it shouldn't have let it happen, and that sits in the bottom of my gut. The reason Derry City lost the league that day was because of me.
That's very honest.
Well, I've said it before, Liam. I know Liam well because we played Legends match. I said it before. I don't care. If I had played well that night, we'd have got a draw at least, and that's all we needed. And I was terrible, absolutely terrible. And that, as I say, it sticks in the bottom of my gut, that one.
Well, ultimately, when Derry did decide, maybe...
Well, actually, Paul Hegarty, who was Stephen Kenny's assistant, had taken over Finn Harps and got them up. So he was on the lookout for players. It was them or Sligo. Paul Cook was manager Sligo, so it was between the two. And then Paul Hegarty ended up in my house, and I played with Paul Hegarty, one of the best midfielders I've ever played with, as well. Solid as a rock, would kick a tree, pass the ball forward, none of this side to side stuff you see today. Really good player. And he arrived in the house and said that he made me a deal, not money wise. I can't say it now. Well, he made a deal that he was also in line for the Derry job.
Yes.
Even though we got Finn Harps up, and he was actually front runner. And signed a form for Finn Harps, and he says, if I go to Derry, this gets ripped up on your contract to Derry form instead of a Finn Harps one. I don't know whether I should have said that or not, maybe not. But that was the deal. It wasn't money around here like that, because it was like the deal that I got was well below Derry's wage. It was like half pay, and half pay if you don't play, and then full pay if you do, and the physio put me out for 6 months. So that was great crack. But I wouldn't mind, a week after that, it was like Stephen Kenny rang. He got the Derry job instead of Paul Haggerty, and he asked me to sign the form for Finn Harps. So the story could have continued, but I wasn't going to do that to Paul Haggerty. After, again, not a money thingy, what he said, I couldn't turn around and say, I don't want to go.
Loyalty was a big thing to you?
It was for that anyway, because beforehand, Derry were in contact with me for ages and saying that they weren't signing players and nothing had been, because I had no manager. But then they bought somebody a week after for £75,000. So, football's harsh. Sometimes it deals you hands you don't want, and you just have to stick your chest out and get on with it. And Paul Haggerty gave me that sort of deal, and I thought that was excellent and fair of him, and I just couldn't turn around and just go, no, I'm not playing for you anymore. I bet you now he wishes I didn't play.
You're very modest, and you might like me saying it, but what you done up in Derry was absolutely incredible. A real fan favourite, a hero up there.
Yeah. That's strong. It is. I had a good time there. I gave it my best, and it was really enjoyable. And it's enjoyable thanks to them. But see, when you weren't doing well, they weren't long telling you, let me tell you. My dad said he was at a match one time, and it was one of the times where we weren't really going that well. We hadn't got much money, and players weren't attracted to the Brandywell. At this time, it probably would have been a time before John Hume got the likes of Barcelona, Real Madrid, Celtic and Man United players, because we were low on funds. So we would have had, again, a squad that plenty of local talent, which is always good, and where they were always successful. If you look at their successful team in '89, a lot of local talent. 2005, 2006, a lot of local talent. You know what I mean? In '87, a lot of local talent. So the manager now needs to take heed and maybe change his ways of going. And we got to play them. You know what I mean? And then I got a phone call. I was out of there 9 years. I got a phone call from a fella called Dan Dunn. He says, "Can I ask you a question?" I says, "Aye, what is it?" He says, "We want to name a supporters club called the Gary Beckett Supporters Club. Is there any chance you could let us do that?" I was kind of going, "Dan, I'm out there 8 years. What's going on?" And he says, "How many have turned you down?" And he's not. You're the first we thought of, first draft. So it says, I didn't know what to say. So I said, "Can I get back to you?" I'll chat to you and stuff like that. And then I rang them Coyle, and he says, "Absolutely, go ahead." And it's still going today. So it is. So there is a Gary Beckett Supporters Club in Derry, and that's something you're humbled with, for starters. You know what I mean? And you do realise the passion that Derry do show for the players that do well for them. I've noticed that over the years. There used to be a family of Quigley's that ran the tuck shop at that stage. It's where you get your tea and coffee and your minerals at half time if you didn't want burgers or stuff like that. And unfortunately, one afternoon they were both killed in a car crash. And there was a number 9 jersey was being handed around the change room. Well, it was supposed to be handed around the change. I signed it and then went to hand it to another player, and it was grabbed and taken away, and I went in to see what's going on. And the kit man turned around and says to me, "Do you remember the?" I said, "Yeah, of course I do." He says, "Well, these jerseys are being buried with them." And then I knew where I was. I knew how passionate. I knew it anyway.
Yes.
And you just that story alone tells you of Derry people and what they think of their footballers if they do well for the club.
That's unbelievable. And Derry, it's a bit of a difficult time there, and you're on League of Ireland TV. So
yeah, they've taken up a couple of old players. I was actually asked to do next Sunday there on the phone just before I came in, but might be back from holiday in time. It's enjoyable. what do you call that boy used to do, catchphrase, say what you see. So it's basically all I do. Look, you just give your opinion and stuff like that, and what have you, and you talk what you see basically. And it's always nice to say something and do something like that there. And I wasn't too bad at it either. So I must have been too bad because he's asked me back maybe 2 or 3 times. So I must be doing something right.
And the Legends games as well. You enjoyed them?
Well, we just quit there for playing anyway. For most of us. We have done this since I left. Derry, I've been playing these games as much as I possibly can, and there was one left, and I heard me back actually 3 weeks before. And usually that means a lot for my back to recover, but this time it didn't, and I wasn't going to miss it, and I was definitely going to go up. But I was always going up and meeting them, but I definitely wasn't going up not to take part. So I said I played the last 10 minutes. So I played the last 10 minutes. I fell and broke my finger in 10 minutes. I touched the ball 3 times before that, but I fell in 3 stages. I used to fall straight down, now I fall in 3 and 4 stages. I got up, my 3 fingers were pointing north and my finger was east or whatever, west, whatever. And it got one of the boys to put it back. As you see, it's still in awful shape, but hopefully in about 8 weeks' time it'll come back around to itself.
Maybe that's a sign.
Well, I'm still posting letters. I didn't stop me doing that.
Brilliant. So you had spells with Finn Harps and Dungannon.
Yeah, it didn't go well because of thingy, and then Dungannon, John Cunningham, who would have been thingy, he asked me up there to do him a favour, but it was Saturdays and it's hard to get off for a Fermanagh Western match on a Saturday in the post office, which is locally. Never mind, go to Dungannon and go to Belfast. But basically the deal there was that they would put me back to amateur status, which meant the only plan I ever had in football was coming back to finish here with the team that I started with, and they did that for me. So when I came back, I didn't even have to wait. I could get straight back in to playing for the town, and that's what happened.
Did you enjoy those few years?
With the town, we won a couple of leagues and a couple of Return Cups, and we won a League Cup with my eldest. Sorry, not League Cup mad. A real cup, reserved game with my eldest, and that was enjoyable. I tried to do the game with the other boy, but injury intervened at 46. Injury intervened in the semi-final. We were drawing 1 each, and I'm not saying we lost because I went off, but we were beat 2-1 after I went off. So I tried it again. It didn't work that time, but I got to share the pitch with the 2 boys at the same time as well, which it's something you never think you do, because the time they grow up you think you're done. So that was nice as well. So it was. I definitely wasn't hanging on for the youngest boy who's only 16 now. That was impossible. But mind you, the girl, maybe she can play too. Let me tell you.
Just even talking to you, like bringing back them memories are so special, and your own children, do they appreciate maybe what you achieved? And
well, I was always cross on a football pitch, never happy, and the 2 boys would have played me and would have found that out if they weren't working hard. And you think sometimes that would put them off, but actually they'd be trying to make sure you're going to get off work to play this Saturday, because they knew when I was there that I was going to be up for it, and that's what they liked. You know what I mean? So it was a nice trait for the have, but it was also important too that they found their own journeys in sport. I know they're not playing as much now as they can, which is their choice really. They actually don't even play for the club no more, which is kind of strange, like, but at the end of the day, when they're not wanted, they're not wanted. It's as simple as that. So they've went on to another team, and Laura Cuddy, she's been fantastic at Gaelic, with the Enniskillen Gaels minors and youth system the whole way through, and she's won a few trophies with them, and playing for their seniors now, and she's made the Fermanagh panel this last while, getting a wee bit of experience in that. So sport's still very heavily involved in the house, and I go to watch them. I used to go and watch them a lot, but sometimes it annoys me, so sometimes I stay at the house.
Do you ever think that you could have moved across the water?
Not good enough.
Yeah,
not good enough. I was in a shop under for long enough. Nobody came. Not good enough. My level was where I was at. It was hard. Anybody thinks that that's easy, go try it. That was hard. Across the water in England, not good enough.
Any coaching or managerial?
With the time the club were splitting up with the big bust, I took the youth that time. I enjoyed it. So I did. It was enjoyable. I liked watching young players trying to grow and trying to help them and trying to give them a bit of advice. I'd done that for 5 or 6 years, and that was it basically. With the coaching, there would have been a time that would have liked to manage in a Enniskillen Town first team, but the opportunity never came. I was never asked, and I was never going to go begging. I think I was asked to take the B team at one stage. In fact, I was. And I thought, Jesus, I'm a wee bit better than that, you know. So, unfortunately, the town job never came along, and it is what it is. They're doing well now anyway. So they've just missed out on the treble 2 seasons in a row. That's not bad going.
No.
And thankfully, they've got the biggest one, and that's not the junior. It's your league. You win your bread and butter. Best teams win leagues. Full stop.
What advice would you give to maybe a young fella stepping out now who really wants to pursue to the levels that you got to?
I would love to see if Fermanagh player, I know Michael McGlynn was at Derry, didn't quite work out. I would love to see if another Fermanagh player play for Derry City and have the same experience that I had, the same success, to show that it wasn't just a fluke for me and Tom. Even though Tom left after that, I didn't stay as long as me. Just to show it wasn't a fluke for me. It would be nice to see another Fermanagh man playing at the Brandywell. Experience or what advice? Try and enjoy it as much as you can, but you'll only enjoy it if you prepare the right way. Famous words, Roy Keane: "Feel to prepare to feel." So, and I remember going up in the car with Tom Owen, and I had the Derry City tracksuit on, and we knew who we were playing for at that stage. We were in there 6 months. And I turned around and says to Tom, I have to win something here for us to mean something. There's no point in here if I'm going to go back home after so many years with the medal. And thankfully we did. So my advice would be, obviously work hard, do your training, enjoy it, but you'll only enjoy it if you prepare right.
And you're wearing a Wolves jersey, you're keeping an eye on them too?
Yeah, well, somebody has to. Funny Wolves, like, well, since I was a kid, my father put the jersey on me and I never looked back. My mother was a Man United fan, God rest her. If I had went her way, I would have had a bit of success, but they're as bad as Wolves now anyway. So now we have a bit of relegation there, and to be honest, I thought it would be a long time before we're going to go back up, but they went and sacked Rob Edwards and signed Jimenez back. Maybe there's still a bit of life left in them yet, and we may be back in the Premiership before we know it.
Gary, that was a fascinating chat. It was by far the most open, and it was I know it will mean so much to everybody up in Derry if they're listening to it. And thank you very much for coming on.
No problem, Mark. Thank you for having me.